SurveySwipe, which is our mobile research tool that we've been developing over the last 3 months or so. And kind of the agenda for the day today is kind of go over kind of a broad overview of mobile research in general, and then very quickly dive into private communities, then go into qualitative research, how qualitative research affects mobile, or rather how mobile affects qualitative research, and then finally talk a little bit about location-based research and location-based feedback that's part of our platform. And I think it represents a fairly decent-sized opportunity, both from a business development as well as research standpoint, as to what can be done for local businesses, local restaurants, local shops, in terms of collecting feedback at point-of-sale locations. So that's kind of the broad agenda that I want to talk about today. Let me dive right into it. Obviously, the mobile ecosystem is dominated by four major platforms: the Apple, iPhone, iOS, iPad platform, BlackBerry, and Windows Phone and Android. There was a little bit of talk about the Nokia platform, which is the Symbian platform, but recently Nokia just announced that they are moving their kind of the software platform over to the Windows Phone platform. So effectively, all smartphones can be kind of categorized into one of these four software or operating system platforms. That chart kind of gives you an idea of where the projected smartphone penetration rates are. Currently, I think right now we are at about 32%, I think, in terms of penetration in the United States, and that grew from what 15 to 20% last year to about 30 to 35% this year. And the projection obviously is kind of the growth of smartphones are going to accelerate. Just not only the total number of smartphones are going to go up, obviously, but the rate at which the smartphone penetration is happening is also going to accelerate over the next over the next year or so. So the idea here is to kind of look at this as an opportunity to say, okay, if so many people are running around with fairly sophisticated devices, devices that can take photos, devices that have GPS in them, devices that effectively have connectivity with them, can that device be the conduit for collecting data, engaging users in all kinds of research, not just quantitative research in the form of surveys, but also maybe even qualitative research, even discussion groups and so on and so forth. Can that be done using the smartphone? That's in a nutshell, that's kind of the focus of SurveySwipe and our mobile strategy effectively. So let's take a look at just kind of thinking through this idea of smartphones as a device, as a real computing device, frankly. So that's kind of that's the way we look at it, to say smartphones are real computers. They actually can perform all the tasks that most computers perform. Checking email, browsing the web, connecting to social media. Everything is available, and it has obviously the mobility aspect of it. So that's the way, at least we believe, smartphones are going to kind of evolve into kind of little mini PCs, or mini kind of obviously computing devices that can perform pretty much every single function that you perform on your laptop or your desktop at work or at home. And then, and I think I talked about this in terms of the smartphone penetration and market share. That's kind of obvious that, like I said, this is kind of a project. This is kind of back in 2010 October, so last quarter of last year, and even between that time and now, the smartphone penetration has gone up all the way up to 30-35% right now. I want to talk a little bit about the smartphones and its advantages, really. I talked about a little bit about GPS. Obviously, that's a big deal. The GPS gives fairly precise location data that you don't have to ask the user. So you don't really have to ask the user, okay, which zip code are you in? Well, because the smartphone tells you that they're in a particular location. Identity is another big deal. now with the smartphone, as opposed to, for example, in the online world where you would run an online survey, you really don't know who the person is. You can obviously ask their email address, and even possibly verify their email address, but still that is a fairly weak identity link. Whereas using an app-based model uh, for for data collection, you actually have a fairly unique device identifier. So every smartphone operating system has this concept of a unique device ID. That's literally a unique number. It's not your phone number. It's actually a separate number that is attached to the device, that's attached to the physical device, uh, and that's that becomes your unique identifier. So you don't really have to kind of ask the user even their email address. For example, you could still repeat identify the user coming back, loading up the app again and again by just it's called the UUID, by just that UUID. And then obviously kind of the iPhone has changed the game in terms of user interface. There are lots of controls, controls and mechanisms. When I say controls, what I mean is user interface controls that users have kind of almost gotten used to right now. Consumers have gotten used to the idea of the sliders and the animation and the sex appeal of the iPhone. And that's why, obviously, part of the reason why the iPhone is so hugely popular is because it kind of consumerized the entire game. So we want to take advantage of all those underpinnings to see, okay, can we use these to our advantage in terms of how we collect data? Instead of sending web surveys that are radio button enabled only, can we send out a more engaging, increase the engagement level and increase the value proposition, thereby for the user to say, well, it's actually fun taking these surveys, and it's not a tedious old a web survey. So those are the kind of some of the advantages that you can think of, both from a technical standpoint and from a kind of an execution standpoint, to say, here's what we can do with mobile research that we frankly couldn't do earlier on. So the other thing that I want to talk about really quickly is, in terms of apps, I'm sure we've all seen the kind of the iPhone ads, as well as kind of all the 4 different platforms have an app store model, and that has become, frankly, the new currency in the obviously in the mobile world. People are buying apps, and obviously developers are building apps. By last count, I think the Apple ecosystem had something to the tune of 200,000 apps. That's, if you think about it, that's a fairly large number in terms of the number of people developing apps, number of people consuming the apps. And then what we've looked at, obviously we've built an app for all the 4 major platforms. But more importantly, what we looked at was, how can we use the apps as a reward model? So the idea here is, users, do something for you. They take a survey, they participate in some sort of online focus group, or a mobile focus group, give you some data, and what do they get in exchange? They actually get apps in exchange, other apps. You can get Angry Birds. You can get, Angry Birds is the hottest selling iPhone, and actually it's built for all platforms. It's a very hot game that everybody is running around trying to buy, and our model is, we'll give you Angry Birds for free if you take 3 surveys for us. So that's kind of the overarching model that we've gone with SurveySwipe, and that gives, obviously that gives the instant gratification for the user, for the end user, who wants obviously Angry Birds, but doesn't want to pay the 99 cents for Angry Birds. And this model appeals to most users who want to try out there are 200,000 apps, and you're not going to go out and spend 99 cents on each of those apps, but you might take a bunch of surveys to in exchange of points that can be redeemed into the App Store. So that's how we are looking at this. I want to kind of then really dive into what we are calling private communities. The private community aspect is an extension of our platform, which allows you as a researcher or as a client to effectively silo out your user base to say, look, I want a bunch of people to download the app, but I don't want anybody else to have access to it, obviously, and I want to run mobile surveys against these users. I want these users to give me a feedback. Think of it as essentially an extension of the online community space, really. So you have, obviously, we've all dealt with online panels and online communities, which in theory is essentially a walled garden where you have a bunch of users coming into a spot, and you either run surveys against them, profile them, then run surveys against them, and then even possibly run a couple of focus groups against them, and kind of engage them in that way. So it's essentially taking that same model and moving that into the smartphone app space, really. And there are a couple of obviously interesting ideas that come out of it. For example, one of the things is push notification. So with push notification, you can actually message the user in real time. Instead of sending out an email, you could send out a pop-up notification on your phone to say, hey, look, we got another survey for you. Would you like to take it? And I think this can be kind of pushed into, you can push the envelope over here and kind of possibly even do marketing exercises, and that's kind of obviously a kind of a gray area right now, and we don't know what will happen over there if it's actually aggressively marketed. You look at it as a purely marketing exercise as opposed to a research exercise. So that's something that we obviously need to be aware of. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that could be potentially used in that particular model. Okay, take a survey, get a coupon, and so on and so forth. So is that a research exercise or is that a marketing exercise? Well, kind of both, really. So I want to kind of dive into kind of the app itself right now and show you as to kind of this gives you an idea of how. Let me just kind of resize my here. This gives you an idea of how kind of the private mobile communities work within our system. So if you've used kind of either the SurveyAnalytics or the Question Pro systems, you kind of are familiar with the interface, and you'll see as part of our panel management interface, we have this eWeek information week community. So this is essentially actually not an online panel, although it looks like an online panel, but it's not an online panel, and we've set it up so that it's actually a mobile panel. And if you preview it on the web, it doesn't have too much. When you come here, you log in, and let me kind of log out of over here. So you come in, and that's the only page you see. Where you have some marketing material about eWeek and say, hey, look, we want your information. We want you to engage with us through using the mobile interface. And of course, you could do a kind of hybrid model also. There's nothing preventing you from doing an online as well as a mobile community model. But for the purpose of this discussion, let's kind of fixate ourselves to the mobile discussion, really. And if you say, we want to create kind of a space, a virtual space where users can download an app and engage with you using, obviously using their smartphones. So the end user would come in and log in and just create an account. So I come in and create an account, and the first thing I'm presented with is downloading the app, of course, right? So if you're coming in using a smartphone, then you would be redirected to the App Store after you sign up. You'd be redirected to the App Store of the device that you're using to say, hey, you need to download the SurveySwipe app. And here, obviously, if you're not in the using a mobile device, obviously, which I'm not right now, I get presented with, look, you got 4 different options. Download one of these apps. So once you download the app, let me go into the simulator, and you fire up the app, you're presented with obviously a account creation screen, and let's log in. So here, if you see, even though I downloaded the SurveySwipe app, I'm pinned to the eWeek information community. So that's the part that this user, we know that this user came in through the eWeek information portal, and therefore is part of that private panel, really, if you will. And you can see, through the web interface, you can see me signing up over here, members. There you can see me over here, right there. So you can see that I came in through the web, through the web. Then I switched to the iPhone interface, and you can see that's my iPhone identifier. I was talking earlier on about the UUID, so that's the iPhone identifier that we have. So let's me go back. So this is the iPhone. Obviously, it's itself in terms of the surveys that you run through this interface are defined by you. So this is just another SurveyAnalytics account. So we set up I think a couple of surveys over here for IT communications. The survey that we've set up, just like how we'd set up an online survey, except that this survey can also be taken using the mobile interface. You can say it's the exact same question. What do you use for corporate email? That's the question over here. You can say you can go through the process of taking the survey. What kind of meeting place software do we run? So that's the survey that this user has taken, and the data gets collected, cumulatively, just like how the data gets collected in an online survey. So you can see this response that I just took is the response to coming all the way from the phone, obviously through the web, through an API, through our platform. The second thing that we can do using the private mobile community is kind of profiling. So in this case, we wanted to profile company strength and industry, for example, for this particular panel. So let me go back to the panel side over here, and I'll show you. So, and in the member profile, we set up two different profiles, and this is obviously a customizable setting over here. So you can have any number of profile fields, and in this case, we decided to capture these two pieces of data about the user. And the user can obviously come in and update the profile, and you can say, okay, 1 to 10 employees, 10 to 50 employees in IT services. So that profile update obviously goes back again into your panel, and stays there as a profile update. So what that helps you do is obviously profile the community, and more importantly, for future surveys, the data can be used to cross-segment. Either can be used in two ways. One, obviously, to filter the data. So if you said, okay, look, I want to send the survey only to people with less than 50 employees, then you can say, well, I only obviously segment by that data and say I only want to send out the new survey to all these only people who've answered in this particular way. So that's the filtering model. And what you can also do is obviously reuse this data. So as you run more surveys, you don't have to keep asking the same questions and again, because this profile data is pinned to the user. So if you are running 4 different surveys, you don't have to ask which industry you're on in each of those 4 surveys. You just leverage this data that you already have collected once, and the user can kind of come in and update his profile all day long, and that's kind of a living, breathing profile, if you will, and therefore you don't have you can obviously reduce the size of your surveys because you don't have to ask the exact same demographic or psychographic questions again and again and again for each of the surveys that you're running, and that's not really an artifact of mobile panels, if you will. It's kind of an artifact of just panels, if you will. Just panel-based research gives you that advantage, really. It's nothing to do, frankly, it's not much to do with mobile, except the mobile base allows you to update your profile fairly easily. And then, we talked about rewards, earlier on. So here we've set up, for this community, we've set up an Amazon gift certificate. And again, this is an entirely configurable item. So here we say, okay, we want to have an Amazon gift certificate. Or if you say, well, you know what, I don't even want any rewards over here. So if you take out the rewards and you go back there, there are no rewards available. So as part of this mobile community platform, really you control what UI, what are the things that the user sees. You obviously control the surveys that go out. So that's the default survey that went out. You control all the profile fields, and you control all the rewards. And you also say, like, okay, look, there are other communities that I want you to be a part of. Then you can have a list of communities they want to be. So you can kind of do some cross-pollination, if you will, between multiple between multiple communities that you may have. So that's also available, so where user has the option of joining one or more communities. And then finally, as part of kind of your branding exercise, and this is, we've kind of toyed with this a little bit, is giving an option for you to kind of put put content and information to other things outside the context of kind of research, if you will. So here what you can do is, and this is where kind of it goes into part marketing, part data collection, really. What you can do over here is say, hey, look, I want to put out a link to a particular white paper that I'm writing, and that's anybody who comes here, I want it to go there. So this is, you can set up links over here and say, look, I want to have any number of links. I want a link to Google, and you can set up a link over here to say, okay, this is our, choose a logo for it, and then Google. So, and that will show up over here. You see the smart technology tools over here. That'll show up over here after the next time the user starts up the app. So we have to refresh. The next time he comes here, he'll see the Google link over there. So again, the idea here is to kind of allow you to customize the content of what your users would see over through the app, really. So that, in effect, very quick, blow through. I know I blew through a lot of things over here, but that gives you an idea at least of what the user experience is, really, for the end user as he interacts with you. And of course, you can send out future surveys. As you send out future surveys, things will pop up, and this list of surveys will go up or down depending upon how many surveys you're sending out. And that is part and parcel of how you send out a new invitation. You'll set up a new invitation, and just like how you use our online panel management interface, except obviously instead of sending out an email, you send out a push notification to take a survey, really. Let me go back to the thing. So that hopefully gives you an idea of what at least what the mobile community is all about. Once you have the mobile community, the other thing that we're launching right now is location-based surveys. So what it is obviously, like I talked about earlier on, you have the ability to find out literally exactly from a GPS standpoint, within, I guess, about 10 feet range as to where a user is, provided obviously from a privacy standpoint, the user does have to give you permissions to find out, to use the GPS data. And to that effect, we've added this, surveys near me tab, and that essentially looks up. We are here in Fremont over here, and all the in this case we are looking at restaurants near near a particular area. So you can see there are a whole bunch of restaurants. I love teriyaki, Elemental, all kinds of things over here, near obviously my current location. And here you can go in, and what we've done is set up, obviously a survey for a list of restaurants, and say, look, we want to collect some data. And this is not a push notification model. It's almost like a comment card for these businesses. Obviously, we've all been to restaurants. We've seen physical comment cards that are out there. Hey, look, do you want to give us some feedback? This essentially is just a model for replacement of those physical comment cards that frankly nobody fills out, to say, look, I was here at in Subway, and the guy wasn't happy, and or the guy was extremely happy, and the server was really nice. The idea here is to combine the elements of location and feedback together using the app. So here you could come and say, hey, look, I took this, you can come and fill out the survey. Hey, how long was the wait? And this survey is entirely customizable depending upon category, depending upon the location ID, and so on. So you'd say, like, would you recommend it? You have the standard net promoter model to kind of get a sense of, are we doing well? Or are we doing bad? In terms of how things are going in that particular location. So this entire survey is actually tied to a particular location identifier. And in this case, we are just looking at restaurants, as all the restaurants around this particular area. There's no reason we cannot look at other things. Like if you were saying, like, look, I only want to find out hairdressers or airports or anything else for that matter, any identifiable location can be found, and we use a couple of different APIs to find out what are the different identifiable locations that are out there, and we present that to the user depending upon his GPS coordinates, and then some comments say, look, you should do this and you should do that. So that's in a nutshell, that kind of gives you an idea of what location-based surveying is all about. So that gives you data on a per location basis to say, here's one survey for that location. And of course, this is aggregated over multiple locations, multiple surveys, and we can get some pretty good mashups as to where are people giving feedback, what kind of feedback that people are giving to each of those location identifiers. So that hopefully gives you an idea of what the location-based surveys are all about. We go down to the next one, and then I want to talk a little bit about kind of qualitative research, really, as to so far what we've seen is really obviously online surveys, quantitative research in the mobile space. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about one of the projects we did for the Super Bowl, and I think I have a PDF over here. Let me go there really quickly. And now let me just kind of go through that PDF. Would be a smarter way of going through this. So this is what we did for the Super Bowl. We obviously had the mobile community in place. We asked users to take a photograph and supply it to us. So let me see if I can get the 1 second. So here, there we go. So this mobile ethnographic project was actually done by 4 different market research agencies. It was us, BrandScan 360, Beacon Research, as well as Hemisphere Research here in Seattle. And what it was, I'll give you a quick overview of what we did. We sent out a survey which included essentially the idea of taking a photograph using your mobile phone to say, hey, look, whatever during the Super Bowl, and that's the key element of mobile research, is the temporal element, which is to say, you can get very timely feedback. So if you said, like, you were going to send out, say, let's take the Super Bowl example, hardly anybody would be checking that. Well, everybody might be checking their email on their smartphones, but the idea was, nobody's going to sit down in front of their computer while they're watching Super Bowl and give you feedback. That's kind of not going to happen, frankly. So now you say, like, if you really wanted to collect some information during an event, and get that temporal, and if that temporal element is really important to say, like, in the moment feedback, you have to use another channel, whether it be smartphones or even feature phones or SMS, you got to use a different channel to collect that data. And we obviously were using the smartphone. So people had downloaded the smartphone app, and we sent it out to about 1,200 iPhone users to say, hey, look, when you are watching the Super Bowl, do us a favor, do 2 things. Answer the survey, who do you think is going to win, standard stuff. And then we want you to take a photograph of what are you drinking or eating, and who you're with, where you are. And we got about 20% acceptance rate, and we got about 200 or so, 150 or so photographs, uploaded into our system. And this is kind of an example of, some of the photos that got uploaded into the system. And then we also talked about, like, what ads do you like and what ads did you not like. So you can see the kind of photographs that we got. Now, a lot of photographs about watching TV, obviously, and kind of home cooked meal. And then we also asked about, hey, look, what are you eating? Give us some photographs. And these are some of the photographs that we got of what people were eating. And then this becomes the basis of doing some very in-depth. Again, we're looking at qualitative research, not really quantitative. So we really don't want thousands and thousands of responses. We only need 100 or 200 responses, and from that a qualitative story, a storyline can be established. And that's what Tristan and David Barr, who run Beacon Research as well as and Hemisphere Research, did. They kind of put together the report on what people are watching and what it really means to brands. So that is an example again of using the same platform to conduct not only obviously quantitative research, but also kind of diving into qualitative research. I talked a little bit about kind of the temporal nature. That's kind of one of the big benefits. I mean, I think that I believe for a mobile research model is you can get data in the moment. As long the good news is that it can't be obviously a 50-question survey. Nobody's going to go through that, but you can get small amounts of data over a period of time at the time that you want it. Another example that I want to kind of showcase over here is here in Seattle there was a conference called that was organized by the Seattle Direct Marketing Association and the Puget Sound AMA. So they're kind of two different trade organizations. One for obviously direct marketing. One's the local chapter of the American Marketing Association. So they run this annual conference called Market Mix. And during Market Mix, they wanted to collect some feedback during the moment, not send out a survey post conference later on as to what you think and so on and so forth. So they teamed up with us and did the same project. So we had about 100 or so users. The conference itself was about, I think, 300 or 400 people in the conference. About 100 or so joined the community, and then we got responses from about 60 or 70 people. Out of that, during the conference, we sent out push notifications during the conference, and then we got data back while the conference was running. So the entire project was actually concluded by the time the conference was concluded by the end of the day. So it was not something that we kind of went back and did the next day or the next week or so on. So that's another example of how we were able to kind of obviously collect data from a group of users during the moment. And one of the interesting facts in the survey, in one of the surveys, we actually asked, hey, look, are you okay with us sending you surveys? Is this okay? And about 70% said yeah, and as long as the surveys are short, we're okay. And during the moment. So I think there's a lot of talk about, obviously, in market research world, that people are not taking surveys, response rates are really low, and there obviously we can debate the reasons for it all day long. But I think there is no doubt in anybody's mind that if it's in the moment and if it's short, a fair number of people are willing, who normally would never ever take online surveys, are still willing to take the surveys and collect data and rather give feedback and engage with you. So I think the two key elements that we've identified is in the moment and shortness. And obviously you can't run 40-question survey on a phone. It's just simply not going to work. If it's under 10 questions, yeah, I mean, you can get up to 30, 40, 50% participation rate, which is almost unheard of. I know we obviously run an online survey business also. We never ever have 40% participation rates on an online survey. It's just simply not possible. Whereas we were pleasantly surprised when we saw upwards of double digit, anything double digit is pretty good in the online world. And we said we actually got 30% participation rate. That was out of the world, really, at least for us. So that I think I want to see if there are any questions. I think that in a nutshell, I think is I've covered most of everything that I wanted to cover, at least in this presentation. Let me see. Yeah, so I think we're done. I mean, if there are any questions, I can answer those questions. Specific questions, how, I mean, I think you can type in a question somewhere in there, and I can, go in and out of questions. I'll just wait for another 5 minutes. If there are any questions, we can go through them. Otherwise, I think we are almost done. Okay. And that's our contact information. If you have other ideas about projects or that you would like to kind of think about with us, we're always looking for kind of new and innovative projects to do, like the Super Bowl, like the State of the Union stuff that we've done in the past. So if that's something that you'd like to engage with us on, we'd definitely love to kind of hear from you. So you can either reach out to me directly, and that's my email address, or you can just go to the blog, or look at SurveySwipe.com, and you can see some information over there. I think if there are no other questions, what I'd like to do is end it. I think it was good. We did it in 40 minutes or 30 minutes. I'm glad. If there are, all right, I'm gonna close out the webinar now. Thank you everybody for joining, and I think we hope to, if you have like I said, if you have ideas, please get in touch with us, and my email address is right there. Or if you wanna use SurveySwipe for any of your research needs, definitely obviously get in touch with either your account manager or your sales guys, sales team that you've been interacting with. Okay, thank you very much.